Alright guys, we have reached the semifinals at Roland Garros, and I have predicted two of the quarterfinal matches incorrectly. The first quarterfinal match that I predicted incorrectly was Lorenzo Musetti versus Francis Tiafoe. I thought that Tiafoe would give Musetti more trouble and actually win in 5 sets, but in reality it was Musetti who won in 4 sets. So that was simply an error in judgment on my part. Musetti is clearly a superior clay court player than Tiafoe, even though Tiafoe has a positive head-to-head against him, and they played once on clay, and that was actually a pretty competitive match. This set, Tiafoe was the inferior player for the majority of the match, and it was clear that Musetti has been one of the most informed clay court players of this season. He has reached the semifinals or better of all of the 3 clay court masters, and he has only lost to Alcaraz and Draper. Alcaraz he lost in the final of Monte Carlo and the semifinals in Rome, and Draper he lost to in the semifinals of Madrid. So Musetti is clearly having a fantastic clay court season. Those were his only 3 losses on the season. And he is better on clay than Tiafoe. Obviously, I knew that he was better on clay overall than Tiafoe, but with the way that Tiafoe was playing, and given that he had not dropped a set until the quarterfinals, I thought that he might be able to pull off the win, but it was not to be, so I have to reassess my prediction strategy in that now. And I also thought that Zverev would beat Djokovic in 5 sets, but Djokovic put on another great performance at the age of 38 and defeated Zverev in 4 sets. So the way that these events unfolded in terms of the Djokovic-Zverev matchup kind of reminded me of earlier this year, where we had a similar situation where Djokovic was going to play Alcaraz in the quarterfinals of the Australian Open, Alcaraz being a top 3 seed, I think the 3rd seed at the time, and Alcaraz advanced to the quarterfinals after Jack Draper retired in the 4th round. And I said that Alcaraz would defeat Djokovic in 5 sets. I didn't think that Djokovic would be able to defeat a top 3 player at a Grand Slam this year, but Djokovic won in 4 sets after dropping the first set. And a similar thing happened here. This can be said to be a sort of parallel situation, if you will, where Zverev advanced to the quarterfinals after Griekspoor retired in the 4th round. Again, just like Draper retired against Alcaraz in the 4th round of the Australian Open. Zverev is the 3rd seed, just like Alcaraz was the 3rd seed at the Australian Open. And I again said that Zverev would defeat Djokovic in 5 sets. I didn't think that Djokovic would be able to defeat a top 3 player at this Grand Slam. But I was again proven wrong in the exact same way after Djokovic lost the first set 6-4, just like he did against Alcaraz in the Australian Open quarterfinals. And then Djokovic won the next 3 sets. So I have made the same error, it seems, in the same situation. So maybe next time this happens, if there is a next time, maybe I will learn my lesson of doubting Djokovic again. But I did still predict Djokovic to lose the next match at the Australian Open, and I was correct in that prediction. So it is not like Djokovic cannot lose anymore at Grand Slams, obviously. He has not won since the 2023 US Open. But I have been proven wrong in the same way that I was before. However, there's still the opportunity for me to be right in the same way that I was before, when I said that Zverev would defeat Djokovic in the semifinals of the Australian Open. And he did, even though it was due to injury that Djokovic had to retire after losing the first set. But now, let's get into predicting the semifinal matches for this year's French Open. So let's start with the bottom semifinal, which I think is going to be played first on Friday. And of course it is the 2nd seed Carlos Alcaraz taking on the 8th seed Lorenzo Musetti. Alcaraz, who advanced to the semifinals after brutalizing Tommy Paul. I thought that Paul would maybe take a set from him, maybe give Alcaraz some more trouble. But he was completely destroyed from start to finish. 6-love, 6-1, 6-4. He got more competitive in the third set, but he still couldn't even get close to breaking Alcaraz's serve. So Alcaraz completely destroyed Paul. And Musetti, as I already said, defeated Tiafoe in 4 sets. In Musetti's match, he served 70% first serves in, that is pretty good, and he hit 45 winners and 32 unforced errors, so he did 13 more winners than unforced errors. So this was a pretty peak Musetti that we saw against Tiafoe. And Alcaraz was also at his peak against Tommy Paul, with 78% first serves in, a very high percentage of first serves, especially for someone like Alcaraz. And he did 40 winners and 22 unforced errors, so he did 18 more winners than unforced errors. This match was basically Alcaraz at his peak. It was it was his best match of the tournament so far. Who do I believe will win this match? Look, the head-to-head between Alcaraz and Musetti is 5-1 to Carlos Alcaraz. And Alcaraz has won the last 5 meetings in a row, 3 of which were on clay, and 2 of which were this year. In the clay court season, as I mentioned before in the video, he already defeated Musetti in Monte Carlo, and he defeated Musetti in Rome, both this year. So, do I believe that Musetti will now turn the tables and defeat Alcaraz at the French Open? No, I don't believe so. But I think that he can give some trouble to Alcaraz. In Monte Carlo and Rome, he did not get steamrolled. He still gave Alcaraz a decent fight. He won a set in the Monte Carlo final, and he could have won the second set in the Rome semifinal, where he was up a break in part of the set, but he eventually lost that set in the tiebreak. So he has put up some fight against Alcaraz. It's not like he has been destroyed those 2 meetings that we had this year, even though he has not won against Alcaraz since 2022. So I do believe Alcaraz will win this match, but I'm going to predict this to be a 5-setter. Yeah, that might sound a bit crazy considering the head-to-head between these 2 players, but I think that Musetti is playing the tennis of his life right now. Alcaraz is also at his peak right now, but I think both of them are at their peaks, so that's why I think that this can be competitive. And maybe Musetti, after losing 5 times in a row, he will be extremely hungry to win. Not that necessarily always helps that much, but it doesn't hurt. Another thing is that Alcaraz, he likes to play 5 sets in every Grand Slam that he wins. He has played at least one 5-set match in all of the slams that he has won. In the 2020 US Open, which was the first slam that he won, he played 3 5-set matches in a row. In the 4th round against Marin Cilic, in the quarterfinals against Jannik Sinner, where Sinner had a match point, and then in the semifinals against Frances Tiafoe. And it was during that tournament, when I was watching that tournament and I was watching Alcaraz play those long matches, 3 of them in a row, that I said, this guy does not run out of stamina. This guy has endless stamina. He has just played 3 5-set matches in a row, and he has not looked tired at any point. So that during that tournament was when I said, this guy really has limitless stamina. And I have never really seen Alcaraz look tired. I really have not seen that. He has cramped, he has gotten injured, he has cramped, but he has never looked like he is actually tired. He's never looked like he's bending over and gasping for air and running out of steam. Like I've never actually seen Alcaraz look like that. I've never seen that. So Alcaraz's stamina is out of this world, and I don't think it has really ever been an issue for him, at least since he started winning Grand Slams and started being a mainstay on the tour in the top 10. I don't think his stamina has ever really been an issue. And he likes to play, like I said, he likes to play 5-set matches in Grand Slams. So I think that maybe this match can go to 5 sets. If Musetti has a really good day, but I will not be surprised if Alcaraz wins this in 3 or 4 sets. Of course, not at all. And I don't think that Musetti will win, regardless of how many sets it goes. I simply can't see Musetti defeating Alcaraz at this point. I really can't. So I will say that Alcaraz wins this in 5 sets. And now we have the semifinal from the top half of the draw, which would theoretically be more interesting, but who knows? And that is the top seed Jannik Sinner, who has not dropped a single set up until going into the semifinals. So he has now won 15 sets in a row at this tournament, because he has won 5 matches in a row without dropping a single set. And he is on a 19 or 20 Grand Slam match winning streak. The last time that he lost a match at a major tournament was last year in Wimbledon in the quarterfinals when he lost to Daniil Medvedev. So Sinner is obviously on a hot streak, and he has been destroying his opponents. He has been the most efficient in this tournament in terms of dropping sets. He has not dropped a single set, and in terms of dropping games. So among the 5 opponents that he has faced, he has handed out 3 breadsticks and 3 bagels in total. He just defeated Alexander Bublik, the surprise quarterfinalist, 6-1, 7-5, 6-love. So my man is handing out bakery products like Prime Nadal on clay over here. Not obviously, he's not at that level, but the scoreline is making it reflect as though he is at that super high level, and he is at a level that is way higher than the vast majority of the tour. So Sinner's most challenging match of the tournament thus far has actually been in the first round, where he played the Frenchman Arthur Rinderknech, and he lost a whopping 12 games. That is the most games that anyone has taken against Jannik Sinner in this entire tournament. And that was also the closest that Jannik Sinner got to losing a set. In the third set, it was 7-5. But Rinderknech was actually up a double break. He was up 4-love in that third set. But, of course, Sinner just stayed in there, stayed consistent, and worked his way back into the set, and even from 4-love down, he still won the set 7-5. And since then, Sinner's serve has not been broken a single time in the 4 matches that he has played after that. None of his opponents have been able to break his serve even one time. They can barely get break points against him. They are getting like 2 break points in the entire match and not taking them and not breaking his serve in the entire match, let alone taking a set. So Sinner has been destroying his opponents in this tournament, safe to say. And he will now take on the greatest player of all time, the 6th seed Novak Djokovic, who has looked also pretty good in this tournament. He has only dropped 1 set, which was today. He lost the first set against Alexander Zverev. That was the first set that he lost in this tournament so far. But he has not been bageling and breadsticking his opponents like Jannik Sinner has been. He's not won a single set 6-love or 6-1 actually in the tournament. So Djokovic in his match against Zverev, he served 71% first serves in. That is pretty good. And he hit 42 winners and 29 unforced errors. So he did 13 more winners than unforced errors. So this was basically Djokovic at his peak. Or perhaps I should not say Djokovic at his peak, because it is not 2015. It is not 2011. And that was Djokovic at his prime, really, technically speaking. Technically speaking, a prime is different from a peak. But this was a very good performance from Djokovic, close to his peak. Sinner, on the other hand, against Bublik, he served 58% first serves in, hit 31 winners and 13 unforced errors, so he did 18 more winners than unforced errors. So Sinner was solid in this match. Among the 4 semifinalists, I actually think that Sinner played the lowest level among these 4 semifinalists. Yes, I know he destroyed his opponent the most convincingly, but he was facing Alexander Bublik, whom nobody expected to be in the quarterfinals. And yes, I know he defeated Deminor and Draper, but those guys are not the strongest opponents on clay. So he's still just Bublik. Like, he is not a clay court player. And he did not look very good in his match. He was pretty bad, in my opinion. His forehand looked really terrible. It was like he didn't know how to hit it. It was such an awkward looking shot. It was like he was struggling to even get it in the court with his different type of swing. It was just very clunky looking. And he only generated 2 break points in the entire match, which was in the first set when he was already down 5-1. So he didn't even get close to breaking Jannik Sinner's serve, apart from in that one game. So even though Sinner destroyed him, I think this was also Bublik just being bad and not a very strong opponent. Sinner was not bad, of course, but I think that Sinner was just solid. I don't think that this was Sinner at his peak. The head-to-head between Djokovic and Sinner is 4-all, but Sinner has won the last 4 out of 5 matches. But interestingly, they have only played each other one time on clay, which was in Monte Carlo all the way back in 2021, before Sinner had done much. And Djokovic won that match in straight sets. You can't, I feel like at this stage, any match against Sinner that was before Klostebol, or I should say before 2024, doesn't really matter in terms of head-to-head and things like that. Like when you look at Sinner's head-to-head against any other player and say, oh look, this guy beat Sinner before. If it was before 2024, it don't mean a damn thing. Because after he got that cream in his body, he has been a completely different player than before that. And he has become nearly unbeatable, except for when he plays Alcaraz. So any win that a player has before 2024 against Sinner basically means nothing in terms of their chances against him today. Or it means not that much, because since the beginning of 2024, he has been destroying everyone. So Djokovic has not been able to defeat this reborn version of Sinner from 2024. He has lost the 2 matches that they played against each other fairly convincingly. There was first that horrible match in the Australian Open semifinals, where Djokovic was playing terribly and lost the first 2 sets 6-1, 6-2, and then he somehow won the third set 7-6 after saving a match point. But then he lost the fourth set 6-3, pretty convincingly there as well, and he couldn't even get a single break point against Sinner. And I believe he also couldn't get a break point against Sinner in the Shanghai final that they played last year. So those were pretty terrible matches to watch. Now, it will be interesting to see how this matchup looks on clay now, after they have only been playing on hard courts in their last 5, 6 matches. In their last 5 matches. So, who do I believe will win this match? I believe that. Look, I got proven wrong when I said that Alcaraz would defeat Djokovic at the Australian Open. And I got proven wrong in the same way when I said that Zverev would defeat Djokovic at this year's French Open. So, will I now underestimate, so to speak, Djokovic again and say that he will lose to Sinner? Yes. Because, like I said, even when I said that Alcaraz would defeat Djokovic at the Australian Open, I was wrong. I was right that he would lose the next match, which he did. So, I'm going to predict that again. But I think this can be a fight, or at least I hope it will be a fight. I really don't want to see Djokovic get destroyed. But I think that Djokovic is playing pretty well, and Sinner has not really faced a high-level opponent, if we're being honest. He has destroyed everyone, but he has been tested the least among all of these, perhaps the least among all of these semifinalists. Djokovic is now, before facing Zverev, he didn't face anyone noteworthy, but now he has at least defeated the third best player in the world. The highest player that Sinner has faced was Andrei Rublev, who is a 17th seed now. So Sinner has not faced a top 15 player in the tournament. So he has not really had a high-ranked opponent. He has not faced a top 10 player. He has not faced a really strong opponent. So I think that Djokovic can, with the way he's playing, I think that he can make this interesting. But I still believe that Sinner will win because he's just been imperious recently for the past year or so. Basically, unless it's against Alcaraz. And he is, even though the people he has faced have not been the greatest, he's still been absolutely destroying them. And he has won the last 4 out of 5 meetings against Djokovic. So I think Djokovic will have a hard time hitting through Sinner. He has pretty good defense. And Sinner he has a lot more firepower than Djokovic, so he will have the advantage in hitting through Djokovic. So I will give Sinner the edge, and also the fact that Sinner is in his prime, is the number 1 player in the world, and Djokovic is 38 years old. So technically, if you're in your prime and you're the number 1 player in the world, you shouldn't really lose to a 38-year-old man. Even if that man is the greatest player of all time, it's going to look bad for Sinner if he loses this match. And he has had Djokovic's number in most of the last few meetings. But I still think Djokovic is playing well, so I'm going to have some hope and say that he can make this interesting and even take 2 sets from Sinner. But I will still have Sinner winning this in 5 sets. And then I think we will get the blockbuster final that most people wanted, not me, of course, because I wanted Djokovic to win. But I don't see how he's going to go through the top 3 players in the world in a Grand Slam at the age of 38. Obviously, I want him to, but that is a very tough ask for anybody, let alone somebody who's 38 years old and playing against players in their prime. So, I want Djokovic to win still, but I will not predict him to win. And if he gets to the final, by some miracle, I probably still won't predict him to win there either. But I'll have to see what happens before I can definitively say that. So I think that we will get the blockbuster final. which is looking less blockbuster as we go now, since Alcaraz has won the last 4 in a row. But we will get this final between Jannik Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz at this year's French Open, the first time that they face in a Grand Slam final. Both of them are undefeated in Grand Slam finals. Alcaraz 4-0, Sinner 3-0. So somebody's streak will end, most likely Sinner's, based on how it's been going. But you never know, and I cannot say for sure yet. I will have to see what happens in these semifinals. But my predictions are Alcaraz defeats Musetti in 5 sets, and Sinner defeats Djokovic in 5 sets as well. And we get a final between the top seed Jannik Sinner and the second seed Carlos Alcaraz.